everybody. I missed you. I was gone
We missed
for
you.
1 whole week. M&M&M across the board. I'm back from vacation far too soon. Guys, thanks for holding the fort down. Thank you to Liana for filling in. I watched the show, not live or very soon after, but a few days later, I watched it just to see how you guys were doing. How is everybody?
Well, I personally feel as though my world is back on its axis with you back with us.
Why, thank you.
Other than that, just got my mind on some pumpkin pie in a couple days.
Oh, yeah, baby.
The glue held us together. She held us together. So did a great job, but welcome back. It's nice. You got a nice break and you saw some big time hoop.
Yeah. I went to Savannah and Atlanta and we saw some Kevin Herter play for the Atlanta Hawks. They won. They beat your Celtics. Sorry, Eric. But yeah, it was a great time. We got to see Kev a little bit, which was nice. And I don't know that I've ever been to an NBA game before, so that may have been the first that wasn't like a preseason game at the old Nick or the Pepsi or whatever. So it was a lot of fun. But good to be back. We are going NFL as we always do this week, college football, and I think we'll probably do that most weeks here, guys, with the college football playoff rankings coming out as we approach the end of the season. And Sean is going to hit on the much maligned franchises, sports franchises in the NFL, the NBA, the MLB. We'll go across, but yours in particular, Sean, you've got some tough teams that you're a fan of. So we're going to kind of go through like the worst of the worst, who's got it bad, who's got it worse, and who has it well. In Eric and my case, sometimes we have it pretty good, although the Giants aren't so good.
This is true. Are you ready for the kickoff?
Ready for the
let's go. I'll defer.
All right. You're going to kick it off, Eric. Here you go.
First down. The Bills had a statement win against Kansas City, but they've gone 2-3 in the last 5. Now, two numbers to look at. Derrick Henry, when he played them, 143, averaged 7 a carry, 3 TDs. Now we see Jonathan Taylor, 185, nearly 6 yards a carry, 4 TDs rushing. He got another one. And the Bills gave up 264 rushing yards. The Mafia is getting scared. They have no running game of their own, and Josh is forcing his throws. He's looking like, I don't even want to mention some of the QBs of recent years. We don't want to go there. They have 1 win against a team with a winning record. Think about that. And they have 2 games coming up against, guess who? Second down. Everything is going the Patriots' way. Even on a Sunday, they didn't play. They found a way to take the AFC East top spot now at 7-4. They get a bye in December, which is much better. After Sunday's shakedown, think about this, folks. 5 other AFC teams have 4 losses, and only 2 have 3. So it's really going to get interesting. And to pitch a dominating shutout on the road on a short week, it really is amazing. As Belichick had said, that a Tuesday that week is sort of like a Friday. Think about it. And look what they did. And it's all the defense. We know McCourty was missing last year. Kyle Van Noy back from his little soiree in Miami. And 10.5 sacks from Juden. Just amazing. The defense is all over the field. Secondary, led by Phillips, just has been great. And I love the line about Phillips. That's why I got the headset. Bill said, and I quote, one of our best players, one of our most versatile players, and he almost does the right thing. That is big time for Bill. Almost, though. Had to say almost. Third down this week. Take on the Titans. Can't wait to hear you guys on this.
Oh, man. Yeah.
Now.
The hottest team in the league before stubbing their Tennessee toes against Houston. And there had to be some players who just could not help but look past the Texans and look forward to the following matchup versus New England. Tannehill can't do it alone. And lastly, before I punt to Sean on 4th down, to the Stafford family, congratulations. You will have Matthew at home for Thanksgiving for the first time since 2008. I think we'll watch the dog show instead of the Lions. I would if I was him. Pass the potatoes, Sean.
Yeah, first of all, your wardrobe choice this week is obnoxious, and I would like it banned from the show forever. Yeah, look, I want to go positive. I want to be positive this week. I can't because I've just been beaten over the head with a shovel by my sports teams, but it's Thanksgiving. But yeah, the disaster was the Titans.
Yeah.
I mean, you want to go to a Super Bowl, you don't lose. You think about their resume. I'll tell you how good Tennessee is. They have a great record, and they've beaten some great teams, but they have losses now to the Jets and Houston.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm not buying Derrick Henry not being there mattered. I think Eric's right. I think they were a little overlooking Houston, getting ready for the big game in Foxborough, which I expect them to win now because the NFL just makes 0 sense.
That's right.
I think watching football, watching the game last night, my wife's a big Brady fan. She goes, "Are they going to win again?" And I said, "You know what? Just because the world is cruel to me and just the man hates Sean Martin, it's going to be a Patriots-Buccaneers Super Bowl, which I just find as nauseating as Eric's close. No, it wouldn't be awesome. It'd be terrible.
I would love it. I would love for Tom Brady to take it to Bill Belichick.
You know, I asked a friend of mine out in the Massachusetts area, and I said, "What's the feeling out there?" And that is still talk every day on local sports radio.
Oh yeah,
as to who, you know, I would love to see Belichick. I would actually welcome that matchup, as sickening as it makes me, because I'd like to see what Belichick can do with 2 weeks to prepare to defend Brady, like he does with everybody else. Or was Belichick Brady's caddy for 20 years? Or was it, you know, Brady thrived in the system? I don't know. I kind of would like to see the matchup, and then they both just go away and retire and be done with it forever.
Listen, I know we say it every week, but I feel bad for the people who like get paid to break down the NFL for a living because they can't look like they know anything about the sport, about the league, because nobody does. If you week in and week out, we're going to tell me like the Colts would slap the Bills around, the Texans would take it to the Titans for 3 of 4 quarters, basically. There are just things that I wouldn't believe. It doesn't make any sense to me. I do buy into the Derrick Henry not being there partially because, listen, I know they won games without him, but now you're forcing a guy like Ryan Tannehill, who is the quintessential game manager, who has thrown 12 passes in a game before, to throw the ball 52 times.
Yeah.
You can't win a game when Ryan Tannehill throws the ball 52 times because you know what you get? 4 interceptions. And I know 2 of them came late, but you're not going to win. You're not going to beat anybody. I don't care. The Texans are an NFL football team. You're not going to beat anybody if he has to throw the ball 52 times. Getting Derrick Henry back solves that problem immediately. So I think despite the fact that they won without Derrick Henry, they need him to be a Super Bowl caliber team. And that's how I feel about that team.
You're right. That shouldn't impact them against the Texans, but you're 100% right. To go a long way, they need that battering ram back there. And, you know, hopefully for their sake, he gets back in a couple of my fantasy football teams. Hurry back there.
You're right, though. That every week it's like life of the living dead, whatever that movie was, is that we wrote off the Colts. Look what they've done now. Now they're sniffing it. Back they come, like 4 or 5. We thought I said right on here, the Vikings are toast. Okay, they're not going anywhere. They beat Green Bay. Yeah. It's unbelievable how people
like the Eagles, Eric. Like the Eagles are now 5-6. Like, and they're causing problems for other teams like the Saints. I get it. Trevor Siemian is your quarterback right now, but the Saints are a good enough team to beat the Eagles with or without their quarterback. So. Yeah. It's just week in and week out. Things don't make any sense to me. And now who are you picking? Like the Packers lost. The Bucks got beat, you know, back-to-back weeks. They beat the Giants. Who the heck cares? But like the AFC and the NFC are both kind of in upheaval. The only thing that's been pretty consistent is the Cardinals, and they've won despite not having Kyler Murray, which I think is the most impressive part. Like, I don't care who you beat, but you beat the Seahawks with Colt freaking McCoy.
And they haven't had DeAndre Hopkins in the last couple of weeks either.
No, he hasn't played either.
Yeah,
so I think that says more about them than anything.
Well, you got to watch for KC because we keep saying, you know, we malign their defense, but what about Chris Jones? Okay, Chris Jones 3.5 sacks, 2 for loss. He had Dak Prescott looking like Bledsoe when he was in Dallas at the end. It was unbelievable how dominant he was. And if they get that type of defensive performance and the way KC looked, watch out. But again, we say that. What happens next week?
Who knows? But if I'm the Bills, I'm worried because now, and I don't know how worried, but now Josh Allen is starting to look like Patrick Mahomes looked at the beginning of the season. He looks flustered. When he gets pressured, he makes bad decisions. That's not the guy we're used to seeing. But like we've seen, Patrick Mahomes has sort of started to reel it in. And the fact that he has some semblance of a defense the past few weeks has allowed them to score positive points, to actually get in the win column, unlike past weeks.
And Sean, we said before the game, I'd love you to pick up on the fact we talked before we went on the air about the situation with the Giants. And I'd love to hear your thought about that, too, about the coaching staff. And we know about the change. But the thing that I stand out, I looked at Jones, and he is not a quarterback named Jones playing like the one in Foxborough. Right now, he's playing as though he's going to wind up being a backup in 3 years somewhere. Sean, that was awful.
It was a highly questionable pick, and it hasn't worked out. Whether he wasn't what they thought he was, or they haven't had the right people helping him along. You talk about the other Jones in Foxborough. We talked last week about they brought him along perfectly. They've done a great job with him. But what blew my mind last night was Joe Judge just absolutely killing his assistant coaches. Just saying, we have to do better. We're not scoring enough points. And he should have just said, JC, he should have just named Garrett if you're going to do it.
Well, he
really.
did it.
Well, he did it. He got rid of him today.
Yeah.
But I've never seen a guy do that, saying, the players have to execute, but he put it on the coaches, specifically the offensive coaches.
Yep.
I don't remember ever seeing a case that blatant of a head coach just throwing his people under the bus. And he came off to me as a guy trying to save his own ass.
Yeah, and I yes and no. I think he knows he's not going anywhere because he's not going anywhere. They're not going to. They can't afford a coaching change. There has been too much of it. I think they're going to give him another year. And listen, unfortunately, when he called out the coaching staff, it was pretty clear. I didn't think it would be today, but I thought, well, there's going to be some kind of change before the end of the season. There's always a sacrificial lamb every single time. And I bet you,
gentlemen, what people talk about Brian Cashman. Okay,
if he's not gone at the end of the year,
gentlemen, and this goes back to: do you draft a running back that high? I'm sorry, but look at what can occur. A running back can get hurt more than anybody.
Yep.
The average career under 5 years. You draft a guy, Barkley with the talent and all that, and there was talk about it. And look at it now. You can't predict, but he can't stay in the field. And you're not going, when you get behind, Mr. Barkley's not going to throw 4 touchdowns.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I think Gettleman's gone. I don't know how you can keep him.
I think he should be gone, whether or not he is.
Gone. And it's not like he's even savvy enough to come off in the media like a guy that really knows what the hell he's doing. No. He doesn't. Every time he talks, he makes himself look worse.
Yep. No, I agree. Did you guys watch? I saw the best part of the Steelers-Chargers game, which was the fourth quarter, which is one of the wildest things I've ever seen in an NFL game. Every time I looked up, someone was running toward an end zone or kicking a field goal, like something was happening. And it felt like, it was awesome. It was a lot of fun. And Herbert played really well and finally played like the team that they looked more like at the beginning of the season and kind of got away from for the past couple of weeks. But I thought that game was a lot of fun. I'm not a fan of either team, and I just really enjoyed the Sunday night game between those two.
Yeah, the Chargers played well in front of a Pittsburgh crowd, didn't they?
It was unbelievable. Every time they showed a shot, I was like, holy cow, half of the stadium is dressed in black.
That's what happens when you move a team from a city and 7 fans come with them.
Yeah. Oh.
That's what you get. And whoever they play the next time in SoFi is going to be – it was a lot of Viking fans last year when they played there. It looked purple. You thought you were back in Metropolitan Stadium in the 70s.
Oh, goodness.
This is a great stat for that game. So the lead changes, obviously, but the final 3 scoring drives combined, 9 plays, 1 minute and 47 seconds, 3 scoring drives in 9 plays and 1:47. I read that and I was like, it almost seems impossible.
It sounds like arena football.
I think it was 2 touchdowns and a field goal. I'm pretty sure it was 2 touchdowns and a field goal. Unbelievable.
Well, Sean, you mentioned some gloomy stuff, gloomy stadiums. So we're really looking forward to your topic here about misery.
Misery loves company.
Misery.
I'm in a much better mood. I'm in a much better frame of mind when the Raiders win. You know, you'd think I'd be used to it. You really do. Well, thanks for getting me started early.
Yeah, I would say it's tougher when they get like sort of good, because then you like, it's better when they're just awful, because then you don't invest yourself. But we can talk about but you don't invest yourself. It's just better that way, as opposed to being like, oh, but maybe they'll be good this year, and then they're sort of good, and now they stink, and you're like, well.
Yeah, but the thing with being a Raider fan is Monday you feel crappy, Tuesday you're still crappy, but by game day you're ready to go.
Yeah, you're like, all right, let's try this again.
You know, here we go. We're 5-5. Got a shot for Thursday. Get a win here. Get a win here and get the thing going.
Punishment.
It's awful. It's just awful.
How about another team that we were kind of talking about this? We talked about the Colts, talked about the Eagles. The Washington football team has more wins than I thought they would, especially with Taylor Heineke at quarterback. And listen, I know they only beat the Panthers, but they beat the Panthers with Cam, who's had a nice turnaround. I'm happy for him that he's kind of had a second life breathed into him in Carolina. But Taylor Heineke, like, there are teams that are just not. They're not going to roll over. And apparently the Washington football team is one of them, despite injuries.
We knew about their defense. We know about Young Hurt. But that team, I never thought I'd say this, actually, but during the red zone, I like watching them. Mm-hmm. They have energy. They have that little train is us. We've seen that at football at all levels. And now in the NFL, you can sniff an opportunity. You can look and say, look who lost. You know they're looking at the school boards. But Washington, we saw this here. Nobody gives them a chance. We know the division stinks. We know the Eagles are hot. And we know that the Holy Cowboys, they're probably looking and saying the calendar's turning to December, and we know what can happen with them. But Washington is fun to watch, because when you've got a good defense in the NFL, it is a lot of fun to watch. So I agree. They're a surprising team, and they're a team that, a sleeper, but they don't sleep on the field. They get out there and they play hard, and that goes right down to the coaching staff, and they've got a QB that they believe in right now.
Yeah.
Yeah, and you guys mentioned the Colts. One thing I wanted to say with the Colts is, what do successful teams and teams that are successful in January, what do? They run the ball and they play defense, and that's what the Colts do. Jonathan Taylor,
he's turned himself into an MVP quality candidate.
He was a great running back at Wisconsin, and he's the type of guy that he's going to come in. He's going to have a solid 5-6 year career. They're going to run him into the ground, and it'll be over. But it's going to be a fun time for them, because he is. No, that's just how he runs. That's his style.
Yeah,
he's not a breakaway type of guy. He's not a guy that gets outside. He goes through the middle, and he's going to take some hits, and it's going to take a wear and tear. But he's wildly effective, and the Bills found out about him. I know him from his college days, from getting 300 yards a couple times against Nebraska and just destroying the Husker. That's what he does.
Yeah.
He's a solid back, and they have a very good defense.
It's amazing how those Wisconsin running backs translate in the NFL. Amazing. I mean, I know it's been a few years since one has, but over the years, it's always the running backs that make it out of Wisconsin into the pros and do okay. So,
and in that weather, that's how you win. He's probably wakes up every day playing in an arena. He's like, wow, I'm like in my basement playing football compared to the career that he had playing up there in that weather. But he's a stud. And if you get a lead, you've got a guy like that. Watch out. And I agree, Sean, their defense is solid. They're back in this thing now.
Yeah, sure.
Who are you buying in the NFC? Cowboys, Packers, Bucks, Cards, Rams. Who do you think is the real deal? I'm not sure if any of them.
I'll give you 2. I think Arizona has shown that they're here to stay, because they're winning with injuries. Everyone's hurt, and I just watched Tampa, and I think this year Brady, if they win again, I think he'll cement himself clearly as number 2 all time behind Joe Montana. There'll be no discussion on number 2. I am not going to get over the fumble from 20 years ago. He loses points on that in the snow. So, but yeah, I think Tampa and Arizona right now are the 2. to look out for sure. And in the AFC, like you guys said, if the Chiefs keep playing defense, it's going to be them.
Yeah, for sure.
And yeah,
I'm not behind the Cowboys. I was a believer in that they were the best team in a bad division, but I'm not a believer in that they're a Super Bowl contender.
No, they can't hang with the
about
others.
The Packers, but the Packers, to me, like, give me Aaron Rodgers in December and January in a big game. I'll take the Packers, but I have concerns about them as well. But yeah, I agree. The Bucks and the Cards for me are here, and I still think the Rams have got a chance. They've showed enough to me that I think they're not going to go quietly.
I'm going to keep riding the Packers. I just believe I believe that they can win the shootout. I believe they can win a low defensive struggle. We know they could play on Jupiter or Mars in the weather, and I think that they have the guy that's proven. And even though people outside of the city of Green Bay do not respect Mr. Rogers anymore, I don't think he gives a blank.
No,
so
I
still believe in them. I love the Rams, and I think Herbert shows that he can really be there. Tom looks like he's a little frustrated. He gets very down on himself, and it's so hard to repeat. It really is. So I'm thinking, I think the Cards will be there, but I really think it will be the Rams and the Packers. Since the AFC, I don't want to say anything about them, but they're playing as really good football as anybody. Mm-hmm. And right now it should be them in Tennessee, but there's still a ways to go. And I don't think we'll see KC there. And Buffalo's got to really turn the corner.
I'm not sure what happened to that team. It's like Jekyll and Hyde with them.
It is.
First game of the season, next 4 games, there were 2 different teams. And then we've seen them against Jacksonville. And now we've seen them. It's just like, when it's good, it's really good. And when it's bad, it's really bad. And it doesn't quite make sense.
Well, I think the country will get a good look at Buffalo Thursday night. You know, everyone's kind of unwinding from the food fest. Mm-hmm. Sit down and see how the Bills can do. You know, the Saints are still tough. They're not Drew Brees, even Jameis Winston, but they're still the Saints. I don't know if Kamara's going to play, but you're going to see a little bit for Buffalo. Can they go on the road after getting their doors blown off on a short week and going into a tough environment?
Speaking of doors blown off, man, some expectations in college football that did not quite live up to the hype. You got to read for us first?
I do.
All right, hit me.
All right. Hey, folks, the current supply and demand challenges within the auto industry makes this the perfect time for you to get top dollar for your vehicle. Right now at Mohawk Honda, you can take advantage of the Kelly Blue Book Instant Cash Offer. They will put cash in your hand for your vehicle the same day you come in, even if you don't buy from them. That's a pretty sweet deal, especially for all those recent college grads or students in need of a new ride or for some extra cash. Mohawk Honda has consistently kept their lot fully stocked with hundreds of pre-owned vehicles. Their large inventory makes shopping fun as you browse through the many makes and models to choose from, and you can also check out their full selection online. So stop in, say hi to Greg Johnson, the Assistant General Manager, Jake Hot Sauce Doyle, Luis the VIP Man Morales, are one of the many helpful sales consultants here at Mohawk Honda. There's a vast selection of Honda certified pre-owned vehicles, so now is the time to take advantage of the Kelly Blue Book Instant Cash Offer. Mohawk Honda in Glenville, where they always go out of their way
to please you. Free plug for Oh Snap Dill Pickles. I love dill pickles. It's like one of my favorite foods on the planet. So I haven't eaten all day, so I literally flew by Stewart's, grabbed some dill pickles and a iced tea, and now here we are. So I apologize to those people who I'm eating in front of, but I'm trying not to crunch in your ear.
Here, it's okay.
Mm-hmm.
Thanks, guys. College football playoff rankings just came out before we went on the air, and upheaval. This is kind of what we were waiting for, was some movement in the college football playoff. Things become clearer until maybe this weekend they become muddier. But I think they will continue to clear themselves up kind of from here on out. I don't think we see any huge shockers, but man, oh man, I haven't seen a you-know-what kicking like Ohio State gave to Michigan State, especially for 2 top 10 teams, in a long time.
I will say this. I gave Oregon a lot of love last week. I didn't say they'd win. I didn't say they'd win, but we believed in them. And now, of course, we're not allowed to go to Eugene for our safety. But I did say C.J. Stroud would have a field day shredding Michigan State. Never expected that much. But 432, 6 TDs, 36 first downs, 655 yards, 49-0 halftime lead. And Sean, you haven't believed in State either about their defense, but Stroud had just an awesome day, as we thought. And what a statement game that is on both sides.
It was, they rolled them. I kind of thought they would. Eric, you said I'm not a Michigan State guy. I think they were kind of overblown all year. They did beat Michigan. It was a great game. It was home. But I still just didn't buy it. So it didn't surprise me. I didn't think they'd do that. But college football is a little strange. And I think this week Ohio State goes up to Ann Arbor and Jim Harbaugh, Mr. Khaki, as long as his pants don't catch fire and he doesn't have to miss any of the game, I think they're going to beat Ohio State Saturday.
Holy crap. I was just going to say, I think they get beat by 21 or more. The way that team played the other day, if they play like that for the rest of the year, I don't know if anyone's going to beat them.
You may be right, though, Sean. I mean, Harbaugh is 0-5. It's time. If I'm him, I'm walking in that locker room with a whiteboard that says 0-5. I've had enough of this garbage. We only give up 17 a game. This is our time. We get this. We get the East. We get the playoff. I guess you or I should do the pep talk.
Maybe we should send him a whiteboard. We'll get him one of these guys.
We could do
that. Tell us why you believe that. I'm curious.
I don't think Ohio State's as good as the team that was up 49-0 at halftime. I don't think they're as bad as the team. Well, they changed things after Oregon beat them. They changed some play calling on defense and they tightened it up. I like the Michigan team. I like the quarterback. I just think it's time. And maybe it's one of those just intangibles something's going to finally break their way. I think Jim Harbaugh's a great coach. I can't believe he hasn't had success in Michigan. Because he brought Stanford from the dregs up to the top of the Pac-12, and then obviously the 49ers, he turned them around. I can't figure out the struggles of Michigan, but I just think it's time, and I think this is the right team. I love the quarterback for Michigan, and I think they can hang with Ohio State. And there's no intimidation, nothing like that. I don't think Ohio State's in their heads after owning them for a long, long time. I just think, and C.J. Stroud, I'm not 100% certain. He's not as good as he was last week, and that's my thing. I just think Michigan's gonna find a way to pull that one out close. 27-24, something like that. They're gonna have to earn it, and they're gonna have to have Ohio State give them a little bit in form of some turnovers. But I just have a feeling, it's a hunch, that Michigan wins it.
I'm not saying C.J. Stroud is as good as he was last week because no one is that good. Tom Brady isn't that good week in and week out. But 32 of 35, that's hard to do throwing behind the line. Like, that's hard to do if you're handing it off 32 of 35 times. Like, that is almost impossible. The thing that I found interesting was, like, the day after that game, it was like, okay, C.J. Stroud in all the Vegas betting, whatever, he's now your Heisman frontrunner. I get it. But Bryce Young has something to say about that. Like, it was almost like he was an afterthought. And because by the rankings, obviously, people are kind of afterthoughting Bryce Young in Alabama. I get it. Alabama gave up 35 points, but that was their defense. That wasn't Bryce Young giving that up. Bryce Young threw for 559 yards.
That's a full day.
Holy moly. I mean, he set an Alabama single game record, 5 passing and 2 rushing touchdowns. Like, and it's like, oh, well, CJ Stroud, he's like above and beyond where Bryce, what did Bryce Young do wrong? Like, it's unbelievable. After I was just like, this doesn't make, these two played so well that you almost can't, like, to me, they're 1A and 1B. Let them fight it out for the rest of the season. They were both so good. It was pretty unbelievable. That's the fun stuff to watch, even when it's a blowout. Those two were a lot of fun to watch.
Yeah, he might have he might have done the Bama defense a disservice because he was lighting up down the field. They probably couldn't get any rest.
No,
you know, it was a track meet for them. I mean, you have to have a lot of possessions to throw the ball for over 500 yards passing. That's insane. But you talk about him being overlooked. That I think happens at Alabama. The only quarterback they've had in this run of Saban that really got a lot of publicity was Tua, and he's probably the worst right now when you look at the guys in the NFL. Jalen Hurts, who left Bama, went to Oklahoma, has really come into his own. He surprised me. But Mac Jones obviously is doing great things. So yeah, I think the Bama quarterback gets undervalued because it's Alabama, but you got to stand on your own merits, and those are some big numbers.
Yeah, I agree that it's a long-standing, like, listen, AJ McCarron, Greg McElroy, like those were guys who, again, they were just more game managers. They weren't, but Alabama has never needed that kind of quarterback because you have a guy like Derrick Henry, and they have Amari Cooper, and they have the weapons of all weapons on that team. So you never need the quarterback to be great. You just need him to be good enough. Listen, Bryce Young is great. Bryce Young might have more talent than all of the guys we just named based on his quarterbacking ability that Alabama has never needed until now. So it's just kind of interesting. Like, none of those guys did what Bryce Young did last week. They had, how long has it been? And Bryce Young had one of the best games in program history. So I just think it's so interesting. But you're right, always undervalued. But yet most of them don't pan out in the pros, minus maybe Mac Jones, which, listen, year one, let's see how it goes. But Mac Jones is with Bill Belichick. So we'll see.
Hey, we saw Florida, too, fire the – when did college football become the NFL firing coaches? Middle of a year.
I was a little surprised.
Because you have to win.
Grass is not going to be greener.
It's a business. I get it.
Yep.
But
it's not.
I want to talk about Luke Fickell, okay? Because I think this is a good situation, okay? He's not going to be fickle with any jobs. The grass is not always greener on the other side. I say it over and over because I've seen it personally, okay? He can get a bigger, better job, but – look at State, Florida, and Bobby Bowden at the beginning. That program was basically playing in a parking lot, okay? Bearcats are going into the Big 12. That's not going to hurt. He's cemented the program. He'll likely get the big pay raise to keep him and his family. He has Ohio roots, so I can see him staying in the Queen City because the job's not done. But, and we say but, he would be a great get instead of some retread that we see, Bill O'Brien, okay? Or the Florida coach that was fired. Go out and go after a guy like that who can build a program. Don't go with the retreads and a guy that's been fired more than Lou Holtz. But I think Luke Fickell could stay there and have something special happening, not this year only, but in the future.
I think he goes to Southern Cal.
Yeah, I wouldn't be surprised.
He's got ties with the USCAD.
Yeah.
Well, we talked about it last week. I mean, how far is he going to take Cincinnati? I mean, it's a stepping stone job. That's what it is. Now, look, they get in the Big 12.
Said, you're in the Big 12. Like, you win the Big 12, you're in the college football playoff.
But that's a few years away. And then the Big 12 is not as highly valued as other conferences now. And they're going to be even less valued because they're losing the names of Oklahoma and Texas, who lost again. So, yeah, but I think because what's the Big 12 going to be? It's not.
I don't know, but he's about to go to the college football playoff with Cincinnati.
And I hope he does.
You don't have to be in a Power 5.
USC is not what USC was when we saw them on NBC in the 70s. And that's my point, is that they go after these jobs in football and basketball. I can bring them back. Well, the previous 5 clowns didn't. What makes you any special? How about the support of the AD alums?
Yeah.
The one thing about
that's what I'm saying is a good situation.
Yeah, listen, the Pac-12 is up for grabs. It's winnable. There is no dominating team like you have Alabama and Georgia in the SEC. You don't have those teams in the Pac-12 anymore. So, like, you get a coach, you get some recruits, that could be a quicker turnaround than maybe like ain't nobody winning at Florida.
No.
Dan Mullen was on his way.
Right.
Dan Mullen was the hero when they poached him.
They're tearing it down and they're losing top 100, 200, 300 recruits because you fired the coach.
Dan Mullen was supposed to be the savior when they poached him from Mississippi State.
Yep.
Exactly. And it didn't work out. And it's not working out for a lot of schools, you know.
No, not at all. So with the rankings, a little bit, surprised at Ohio State. So we've got Georgia undefeated, 7th week in a row. They're number 1. Ohio State 10-1, number 2. Alabama 10-1, number 3. Cincinnati 11-0 moves into the 4th spot. So the AP poll is the same as the college football playoff. Notre Dame, Michigan, and Oklahoma State outside looking in. Obviously, Michigan beats Ohio State this weekend, and they jump into the top 4. Ohio State falls out of the top 4. And so that doesn't, it's kind of equal. But Cincinnati right now is in.
The key to the whole thing is what will happen. 2 weeks ago, I thought Alabama might get tripped up this week. I haven't seen anything from Auburn to indicate that that's going to happen in the Iron Bowl. But what will happen next week if Alabama loses the SEC title game to Georgia?
Right. Would
the pollsters, let's just say you have Georgia, Ohio State, Michigan winner, because they're going to win the Big 12 or Big 10 title game. Yeah. More than likely, Wisconsin ain't going to top them. And Cincinnati, what if Bama loses? Now you're looking at a 2-loss Alabama team versus a 2-loss Ohio State team, or a 1-loss Notre Dame.
I hope it happens because it will cause the college football world to explode. And then 2 days later, we'll have 6 or 8 teams.
Yes. Mass chaos. I'm a big believer in chaos. Look, I've been banging on the Big 12 all year because I think they're overvalued. But watch Oklahoma State. If they beat Oklahoma and then go win the Big 12, now they're a 1-loss Big 12 champion, and maybe they can sneak in. So
keep them out, yeah.
Alabama's not guaranteed because you're going to have a lot of 1-loss teams there, conference champions. So it'll be very interesting to see how that plays out. I don't think Cincinnati's going to lose. I kind of hope they do because I don't think they can hang with the big boys.
Yeah.
But yeah, we'll see. But could you imagine going into a playoff with anybody have this Final Four at the start of the year? Georgia, Michigan, Cincinnati, and Notre Dame?
No, I mean, it's not going to happen. But
not going to happen, but it's possible.
Yeah, it's crazy.
Which means those games early in the year now come back. Okay, as you talk about this, I'm going to look this week and look and see. We'll look and say, hey, wait a minute, Oregon beat Ohio State. Now, all of a sudden, Oregon is that good, so that hurts Ohio State. All those games early in the year that people thought, yeah, those are pretty big. They're huge. And this is now going to turn into like the final weekend of the regular NFL season, where you're going to see all these cards on the table. It's going to be very exciting. I'd love to see chaos, too. I wish we had it in the MLB the final weekend, too.
You guys will like this stat because I know you're stat junkies, and you'll like this because it involves Nebraska, Sean. 2 top 10s losing by 30 or more points. First time. So Oregon and Michigan State last week, they're both lost by 30 or more. First time since 1984 when Florida State beat Miami 38-3 and when number 1 Nebraska beat UCLA 42-3. UCLA was also ranked in the top 10. So
thank you for making me feel better.
Look at him smile.
Yeah.
On my 3-8 season.
1984.
3-8 season.
Days.
Yeah, the Huskers, we got one more with Iowa. Adrian Martinez isn't going to play this week.
Right.
He's got a bad shoulder. I'm actually happy about that because I want to see what else we have. I don't know if he's coming back for a 5th year. And I hate to say it because the kid has played through injuries and he can make plays that just blow your mind. But he also makes plays that can blow your mind and not in a good way.
The wrong way.
And I watched him a lot this year, and I hate to say this. I have never seen a quarterback with less pocket presence since Jamarcus Russell.
Oh,
God. Did you have to bring him up?
Yes, I did. That's how sour I am right now. My sports teams have just absolutely shoot me in the groin over and over and over and over again.
Oh, my.
You guys, you just keep bringing this stuff up. God, can we talk about the Bachelorette or something like that?
Yeah, right.
One last thing about college football is that all the games I've seen, there's nothing like a senior day, okay? Yep. And you see the kids out in the field because there's like 20 kids out in the field, and there's about 40 parents and all that stuff. And you see them after win or loss, but when it's their last game, these kids, many of them, 90% are not going to play at the next level. And it's very emotional. And I've worked this year. I helped at 3 different campuses, 3 different senior days, coupled with it. One was going to the playoff. One they just missed out, and another where they're going nowhere. And it's so emotional. So for those folks that watch, it's really something. And for any of the seniors that have wrapped up their football careers, you've been playing since Pop Warner and stuff, hats off to you. Okay. Throw the record out because your parents sacrificed for you and you mean a lot to them and you deserve a little hats off. We know it can end in a tough way, but you had a great career no matter where you were, what level you were.
Hey, before I get to the read, greatest senior send-off ever. And yeah, I'm a homer. I know more about Nebraska than anybody else, but this was phenomenal. Kenny Walker, back in the day, late 80s, early 90s, he was a deaf football player. Great football player. Ended up playing with the Denver Broncos. When he got introduced, Memorial Stadium went silent. Nobody clapped. They did this, which is the sign for clapping.
Cool.
It was unbelievable.
That's awesome.
I probably didn't do the sign 100% right, but it was unbelievable.
That's cool.
Yeah. So, okay, before we get to my pain and misery, hey, the final few months of 2021 are here, and that means holidays are approaching. Make sure your home is safe and warm this season thanks to Johnstone Supply in Troy. The Goodman furnaces are now in stock. Goodman furnaces are not only made in America, but they're also the perfect blend of efficiency and dependability for wherever you may live. Don't forget to clean out your air filters before your friends and family visit this season. Find out ways to purify the air in your home and to adjust your air filters before the big holiday events by connecting with Johnstone Supply in Troy. Visit them on 6th Avenue in Troy from 8 a.m. to 5 p.m. or call them at 518-272-5922. Whether it is George, Tom, Kev, or James, the crew there will offer you the best recommendations for the season. Call them today and get the best advice on how to prepare your home for the snow and to change your boilers or furnace. Call Johnstone Supply in Troy, 518-272-5922, or leave them a comment on Facebook.com/Johnstone Supply Troy, New York. So I'm at the playground last Sunday at 4:05 with my kids. Time for the Raider-Bengal game. Put the game on my phone. First possession.
You're supposed to be watching the kids.
I was. They're fine. First possession, the Raider defense forces a fumble, return down inside the 10, first and goal. First play is a handoff to Peyton Barber, who's in the game because someone took Josh Jacobs' helmet, apparently, and Thurman Thomas flashbacks, and nothing there.
Oh, God.
Next play is a screen pass behind the line of scrimmage to Darren Waller, -2 yards. Third play is a flare pass to the right. Carr throws the ball behind the running back, incomplete, field goal. And I'm just like, what was that?
And you're like, this is how this is going to go.
This is how my day is going to go. Mm-hmm. I've seen this movie before.
Mm-hmm.
A lot. Since 2002. Too much. Since 2002. Now, we got a break in 2016 that we made the playoffs. Christmas Eve, my boys were 3 or 4 months old. Derek Carr breaks his leg. Oh, I'm getting ready for Santa Claus to come to the house for the first time with my new kids, and I'm fighting back tears to my quarterbacks on a gurney or on a golf cart with the thumbs up sign. I'm fine. No, you're not fine because you lost the next week and you had to play Connor Cook in his NFL debut in the playoff game.
Michigan State.
It's torture. So I'm home having a little pity party Sunday night, and I was like, God, I've at least got to watch 3 Super Bowls, wins, seen 4, 1 loss. But
that's pretty good.
At least I had that. And then I said, you know what? Maybe I should champion this week. What about those poor people in Detroit, Michigan? They won one big game in my lifetime, and I'm pretty old. And that was a first-round playoff game against Dallas back, I think, in the early 90s before Washington went and just blew their doors off in the NFC title game. The Lions have had nothing to look forward to other than a Barry Sanders era that he's like Mike Trout.
Yeah.
Great career, never won. Cleveland's never been to a Super Bowl.
Yeah.
Even Buffalo. I mean,
bad to be Cleveland.
Oh, it's terrible. I mean, Baker Mayfield's just, being booed. I don't care.
Yeah.
And, even Buffalo, they went to 4 Super Bowls in a row, but you lost them all.
Yeah.
And anyone that ever says losing a Super Bowl can't tarnish a great year, never lost a Super Bowl.
Right.
You know, and even this year, you think about the Bills Mafia, they're jacked. This is the year. Well, they're struggling big time. They didn't see this coming. Minnesota 0-4 in Super Bowls, haven't been there in 45 years. The Chargers, all 7 of those fans, they had to suffer through the Hall of Mediocre King, Phillip Rivers, for like 16, 17 years. Even
Fouts didn't get there. Yeah.
No, as great as he was, he didn't get there. You know, the Texans, you don't count. You haven't been in the league long enough. Sorry.
Right.
I'll touch on some in other sports, but I try and think of what are some of the great moments for these teams. The Jets, they're in year 52 of their rebuild. What are the great moments for these teams? I've at least had some.
Yep.
It was back when I was in college, but
still,
my God, I have.
Most of mine also were when I was in college, and I haven't had a Yankees World Series in 10, 11 years now. And both of my Giants, you know, were college area age, but at least you're a full-on adult. You have your fandom. You can cheer for, like, I feel bad for the people who are like, well, I was 8 years old the last time because that's not, you don't really remember it. You don't really appreciate it, I don't think. But yeah, I consider myself very lucky, and I know that. But like at the same time, my favorite football team's the New York Giants. That's pretty unfortunate right now, at this time, right now, in the last 10 years. Pretty unfortunate.
I don't know that Eric can put any personal into this. He could speak for other teams, but since Boston, Massachusetts is title town for everything for 12 years.
You could speak to pre-2003, though. Like,
they were horrible. Okay?
Yeah, and listen, the Red Sox were really bad for a long time.
Yeah.
Like,
my father, I remember we went to a high school windy, horrible stadium, and he said, "You ready for some NFL football, son?" I said, "Yeah." He said, "You're not going to see it today." It was awful. Sean, I want to touch on one team I think that fits the bill here, and it's the former Buffalo Braves, former San Diego Clippers, the Los Angeles Clippers, okay? I think they are, without a doubt, the most futile franchise. We know they've gotten better, but when I worked with the Warriors and walked into the Los Angeles sports arena, I felt I was walking into a cemetery. The place was a dump. It made Oakland's Coliseum look like SoFi. I'm serious. Bad neighborhood, horrible team. From 86 to 04, they never finished higher than 4th in the division. 4th. Think about it, in a division. And you remember Sean Livingston, the star high school kid, he gets hurt 3 years later. The only highlight was 15. They beat the Spurs, the defending champs, Chris Paul, thank you very much. But then they go out and blow a 3-1 lead to Houston. And I think when I think of futility, I think of the Clippers, that old arena, and I think of a guy, I will call him Ronald Curling. I don't even want to mention his real name. Without a doubt, the worst franchise in sports history.
But isn't it interesting? Like, I always think about, okay, kids growing up now, like there are like your childhood compared to mine, compared to kids growing up now who think like they can't remember a time when Steph Curry wasn't on the Warriors. And I understand they were hurt and they didn't make the playoffs last year, but like they don't know a time when the Golden State Warriors weren't one of the best teams on the planet. Like, and to me and you, it's like, well, we know plenty of times when the Golden State Warriors were not even close to the best team on the planet. So it's so interesting to me how kids grow up. Like, I know a bevy of kids who are Seahawks fans because Russell Wilson made it cool to be a Seahawks fan. They won a Super Bowl. And then, you know, now you have a whole like upbringing of kids who are like, well, I'm going to go with the winner. I have people my age, my cousins, who are all Cowboys fans because they grew up in the 90s when the Cowboys were awesome. So I just think it's so fascinating how fandom goes because of how cyclical and strange like the tides are. But I love it because the Golden State Warriors were a few players away from being a dominant franchise. This can happen for anyone. Like we saw the Phoenix Suns last year do it. This can happen for an NFL team. It's a little harder in the NFL, I think, than in the NBA and in Major League Baseball. But I just love the idea that you can go from being a totally irrelevant franchise to a dominant one into winning. In the Patriots example, you're winning multiple Super Bowls over 20, like 6, 7. You've been to 10 Super Bowls in the last 15, you know, not that many, but still it's fascinating.
I mean, there's others I thought of, like the Orioles. They have been relevant since Jeffrey Meyer put his glove over the right field wall in '96. The Indians tortured in '98. Looked like they were going to win it. Jose Mesa, the fireman of the year in the AL, blows Game 7. And the Pirates, I mean, my God.
Yep.
I mean, I'm an A's fan.
Bad.
At least the A's have had some success. It's frustrating knowing that they get players for a couple of years and then they have to sell them off, like you're going to see in the next few months. Those are tortured fan bases. In NHL, Toronto's got the most loyal fan base in the maybe in all the sports, and they keep getting their guts ripped out in the first round, and I can't get enough of it. I love it every year because
that's the worst. You're right, because they're great and then stink.
I know.
I'll dance on that grave every April. Bring it on. Buffalo.
I want to throw some franchises at you, and then Sean, I want you to touch on the division that you mentioned that is a division of suck. But Memphis Grizzlies, NBA team in a college town. Sacramento Kings. There's nothing in Sacramento. They should have stayed in Kansas City or Omaha. Okay, there's nothing in Sacramento but a river and 110-degree heat.
They are the epitome.
They're bad.
T-Wolves and Kings, both 17 years without playoffs, and the Ottawa Senators, you need to go back to the original Senators long before our great-grandfathers. And the cities, Charlotte, Buffalo, and let's not forget Seattle now holds the record that the Blues had of playoff drought, 20 years and counting. But, Sean, you mentioned about a division in hockey. That has
Toronto, Buffalo's had a decent start to the year, but that's an AHL team there, and Ottawa got to the finals in the early 2000s, but they've been, they might as well go play in the OHL and maybe they'd have a shot for a 500 record there. And Eric, you must have read my notes on the NBA because you named every team on there. Awesome. You didn't put the Pelicans in there, and I'm going to name the Seattle Supersonic fans. Who lost their team and really want one back and had to go watch them thrive in Oklahoma City, but they're irrelevant now too because nobody wants to play there.
Yeah, but they have 2,000 first-round picks in the next 10 years, so they might be okay. Yeah, again, at some point. I think I don't know how I forgot about this, but there is no more irrelevant franchise than the Sacramento Kings.
No, they're terrible.
On the planet, I don't think in any sport. I think they are the epitome. Like, poor Luke Walton, bye-bye. You couldn't pay me enough money to take the head coaching job of that team because you cannot win there. You can't.
It's a AAA city for baseball.
They had a 1 or 2 year window in the 2000s when Chris Webber and they got to and they got to the Western Finals and lost to Shaq and Kobe, and that was it. And that window slammed shut, and it was hard. They were the Kansas City Royals. They're the Kansas City Royals now. Where the Royals were 10 years ago before they got good for their window of opportunity because they were the most irrelevant thing I ever saw. But then they got good for
the Maloof brothers got a lot of big features and they were getting a new arena in Sacramento. But again, they came from the only franchise I think that ever was called two cities, the Kansas City Omaha Kings, which were originally the Rochester Royals. But can you imagine being a Kansas City basketball fan? We're getting season tickets, but no, not 40 games. We only get 20. We got to go see the other 20 in Omaha, and they wind up in Sacramento. You're right. Very, very under the radar, irrelevant team in a nice city. But.
And think about this. Houston, one of the biggest media markets in the country. You have a team who had Russell Westbrook, who had James Harden, who was at the top of the NBA, and now they've lost 15 straight games, and who the heck knows when they will ever win again. Like, it happens like that because a star player forces his way out of a city now. It's not like it used to be. Right. Like, a star player says, I want to trade. You have no choice but to trade him, and then you tear your own team right down. Like, it's unbelievable. Sports are unbelievable. That's my motto for the day. Like, a team like the Houston Rockets went from very, very relevant to completely irrelevant.
Blame Bill O'Brien.
Yeah, exactly. For the Texans, too. The whole city.
Exactly.
Great
whiteboard
topic.
Time?
Thank you.
I think it's whiteboard time.
Have you said your piece? Are you good with the A's and the Rays? I don't want to cut you off. I
don't feel cleansed yet. I just want to kind of champion the talk for all those other people that I have to look at their misery just to feel better about myself. Hey, but whatever you do, whatever you got to do to get through the day, that's my motto. And if I have to look at the Detroit Lions and Cleveland Browns and just laugh and laugh and laugh, or the Texas Longhorn Football Club, then that's what I'll do because it makes me feel better. So yeah, I'm good.
Okay. Eric, I will save you for last because I think the numbers game is fun. Sean, you want to go first? You want me to go first?
I'll go first in the spirit of my newfound positive outlook.
Oh, okay. That's what this was? Positive?
I feel good now. Now,
okay. All right. We're on the mend.
He doesn't live in Sacramento.
Catharsis.
My whiteboard. Random acts of kindness.
Love it.
And I threw in the Go Blue. Blake Coram. If you don't know who he is, University of Michigan running back. When the name, image, likeness thing came out in college sports, I thought it would be really bad. Haven't shown that yet. The jury's still out on that. But Blake Coram, if you have not heard, took his NIL money that he was given this year, he earned, and bought and donated turkeys to needy families in his area. That's awesome. Good for him. Good for that young man. Whoever raised him did a great job.
Yes.
Gives me an extra reason to root for Michigan this week. I'd like to see that story get a little more play around the national media. Maybe it will, because that is a cool thing to do.
I love it. Good for him.
Yeah.
I have nothing else to say about. I mean, good for a kid doing the right thing. You don't see a lot of kids doing the right things these days, and that's beyond even doing the right thing. Like the right thing would be like buy a turkey for a needy family, but he went above and beyond, and good for him.
Absolutely.
And tell us how you found that out. I'm curious, Sean, what media outlet that came from.
I found it on Twitter.
The land
and
of
that's
the tweets.
Point. That's something that should be a lead in the media, no question. That's the type of stuff we need
my
to
guess
hear.
is, at least in Michigan, it'll get picked up pretty good.
Yeah.
But it should. I mean, something like a Sports Center. It should. Somebody like that'll pick it up. I would hope. I didn't write it all out here. South Carolina women's basketball. I love me some women's sports. But, and this is going to sound crazy as a Yankees fan because I am a fan of a franchise that everyone else hates because they've had their, runs as a dynasty. I am so done with Gino Auriemma and UConn. And not that I don't ever want them to win again. I'm fine with them winning again. There was not enough parity in women's college basketball. And it is finally happening. A team like South Carolina and Dawn Staley beat them by 16 yesterday in the Bahamas. Held the Huskies scoreless for the final 5 minutes. I have no idea when the last time that happened to a UConn team was. I didn't look it up. It's probably been a very, very long time because that's not a team that loses and it's not a team that gets held scoreless for 5 minutes. But thank you, Dawn Staley and South Carolina. Thank you. First of all, thank you, South Carolina, for giving her that awesome contract, that groundbreaking contract, and the contract that she deserves and will probably be paid more at South Carolina than she could ever dream in the WNBA. I hope she gets an NBA job someday. But I'm ready for parity in women's college basketball. It is coming. The fact that South Carolina has staying power is kind of what has me excited about the game because everybody's a UConn fan because if you're not a UConn fan, you have nothing to get excited about, Sean. Like we talked about, these maligned fan bases. You have to be a UConn fan because nobody else can win. Well, other teams are winning now. They're competitive now, and this is making women's college basketball more fun. That's all I have to say. I'm just very excited about good teams like South Carolina who can finally play with and against UConn.
That's awesome.
Well, Ashley, I have a little gift for you, a quote
that
I thought you would like from an individual in the know about your program here. And I quote, Dawn Staley has built a program here that is a model for all in intercollegiate athletics, the fan base, level of local support, branding of her program, synergy with campus auxiliary departments, and her energy was the perfect recipe to build a championship caliber program. She built it and the recruits have come. We play in front of 10,000 plus almost every game.
Yep.
If you are an outstanding women's basketball player and want to compete at the highest level in front of a passionate fan base, Dawn has built a program that is hard to say no to. Unquote. That is a quote I got today from a friend named Charles Bloom, who is an executive associate AD at South Carolina. And I mentioned that you were going to give the Gamecocks some love. And he said, please feel free to give Ashley this quote about the program. And he's pleased that you gave some love to the Gamecocks.
Eric, I'm honored that you did. That's like above and beyond stuff. You reached out to your contacts. You got a quote. I mean, you're setting the bar very high for future episodes here. That was awesome.
Hey, by the way, nice job, Eric. Before Eric goes, I've jinxed my share of athletes and teams since we started this. I do want to point out that since Eric talked about Oregon having top 10 football, men's basketball, and women's basketball, breaking news, men's basketball just lost to St. Mary's tonight.
Oh, no. St. Mary's is good.
Oregon football forgot they had a game on Saturday, and the Duck women were beaten over the weekend as well. So, Eric, welcome to the Jinx Club.
Oh, no.
All right, I'm going to throw a flag on that one. I was going to save the flag for Jamarcus Russell, but I guess
throw a flag on your outfit.
Yeah. All right, here's my fun. Every month we do at the end of the month a number of the week. Okay, and you can always do a 3 or 5. There's certain numbers, but I like to hunt a number that's got some discussion. And this week it's number 35. Okay, Sean and I remember 35. It's a cool number. Now, you could do 3 Babe Ruth, 5 DiMaggio, but combine them. And if you're a fan of baseball and hockey goalies, this is going to be pretty cool.
Yeah.
I found 7 players who have or will have that number retired in their honor. Think about that. Now, in this case, I had about 6 that stood out. Here are my 3. 2 are active. Number 3, Justin Verlander. Got him 3rd. Glad he's coming back healthy, strong after surgery, has over 100 more wins than losses. 8-time All-Star, led the league in AL strikeouts 5 times, wins 3. He was the Rookie of the Year, got a pitching triple crown. That's hard to do, of course. Even it's harder, I think, than in some cases hitting. AL Cy Young unanimous MVP awarded in 19. He had his first career 300K season, won his second Cy. I think it's safe to say now that he's signed in Houston again, we'll never see the number 35 again in Detroit and probably never again in Houston. Number 2, Frank Thomas, 2-time MVP with the White Sox. And you know what? Nobody ever mentions his name during the steroid era. Big Hurt had an OPS of 1.217, 18th best ever. 521 quiet homers, actually. 5-time All-Star, and the only guy in history to have 7 consecutive years hitting 300, 100 ribby, 100 run, 100 walk, and 20 homers.
That's unbelievable.
Isn't that incredible?
That's a good, I mean, that's as good as it gets.
And he's
everyone would take that.
He is the last 35 on the south side, but the Big Hurt might make a visit here to my man cave and put a hurt on me because I bumped him to 2. Number 1, I have to go with Kevin Durant. Now, the Warriors have already announced that they will retire his number in 1 year at Texas. Okay. Look at that.
Oh, in Texas. Okay.
He was the first. You'll hear why. He was the first freshman to win the Naismith, first ever. As a pro, 2 titles already, MVP, 2 finals MVP, All-Star Game MVP, probably pickup league MVP, 4 scoring titles, Rookie of the Year, 9 All-NBA, 6 of them first team, 11-time All-Star, and Durant was honored as one of the 75 greatest players of all time for this year's 75 anniversary all-time team. He's only 33, and there are still more titles and awards probably coming. And yes, I know he's wearing 7 in Brooklyn, but his 35 will be in the rafters in multiple cities. I bumped him up over Frank Thomas because I didn't realize how much he's already accomplished. Go ahead, folks.
I'll go. You want to go? Sean wants to say something. So I'll just
no, my screen's not frozen. My face is frozen.
No, I know.
When you were going through your list, I was like, wow, he's not going to put Kevin Durant on here because Ricky Henderson has to be number 1.
Yeah, listen, I thought the baseball for me, I could have taken all 3 baseball players for me. I didn't. I like to mix it up a little bit. I went Tony Esposito because I wanted to include hockey as my 3. 886 games played, 423 wins. Hall of Famer already, which for me, that's like, you're already in the Hall of Fame. Great. 5-time All-Star, 3-time Vezina winner, and he won the Calder in the same year.
And retired 35. Yep.
Yep.
And he had one of the coolest goalie masks ever.
Well, that's a positive. So for me, that was 3. I go KD 2 for all the reasons you said. And I just think if the guy plays 5 more years or whatever it is, the accolades and the numbers are probably going to far exceed anything that we've seen in a while. And for me, Ricky Henderson is number 1. Not because the numbers are anything so much crazier than anyone. Like Frank Thomas's numbers are mind blowing, and I love him, but I wanted to go 1 per sport. But Ricky Henderson's a Hall of Famer. He's a 2-time World Series champ. He didn't hit a ton of home runs. He hit almost 300 home runs, though. But he stole 1,400 bases. And for me, it was the transformative aspect of his career. Like, he transformed the game, and he is the only Ricky Henderson on the planet. There is no one like him. Yeah. Like, people are going to compare Frank Thomas to Barry Bonds, to Mark McGwire. There's nobody like Ricky Henderson. So for me, he's number 1.
Well, Sean, before you go, I have to say, obviously, Ricky Henderson's number 24 is retired by the Athletics. And he wore that a lot, too. And that's why I didn't include him, because his number 24 is retired with the A's. Yeah. Sean?
I'll give you that. Henderson's number 1 for me. I love the Tony Esposito pick. He kind of give him the edge over Mike Richter.
I love Richter, too, because he was like formative for me. He was in his prime when I was growing up, but
and Richter, when you win in New York, you get put on a certain pedestal. Durant definitely goes on the list, but I want to give an honorable mention to 35 that played for the Raiders in the 80s. I think 80s, 90s. Steve Smith was a fullback out of Penn State, was a gung-ho fullback, good blocking, could make some plays for you, passed away from ALS on Saturday.
Oh,
very nice.
Man, I was really trying to get pumped up about this segment.
Well, I mentioned goalies, and a great call on Espo, retired number Richter. And also, let's give credit to Pekka Rinne, the first Nashville number retired, right? For the Nashville Predators. So 3 of the goalies with the number 35. The others, Barrasso, Sebastian Jaguar, and Andy Moog. Always a fan of him. And the other baseball guy I think that really has to be credited is Phil Niekro.
Yeah, no doubt.
He inspired my knuckleball during my wiffle ball years in high school and college. And boy, I had that thing jumping, and I owe it all to Nuxie.
If you can throw a knuckleball with a wiffle ball, it is really something.
It drops, the bottom drops right out of that thing. Yeah, and then you put a little mud on it. You scuff the ball up at the mound. You put a little mud on it. Makes it a little heavier. It's even got a little more dip to it.
Yeah.
Eric, real quick.
Retired. So 735's retired. Great number.
Awesome. Eric, real quick. Did you think Frank Thomas was a steroid guy?
No, I do not.
I don't either. Okay, I thought maybe you were inferring that, but I don't think so.
No, I was saying how you never hear his name mentioned in the group, and I think that's a credit to him, and I don't think he ever was.
No, he had a big build anyway, and his career had a natural trajectory downward when the time was appropriate at his age. So, yeah, I agree. Okay.
All right, well, you've been watching M&M&M across the board. You can find us on Apple, YouTube, Spotify, Twitter. At MMMATB1. I'm Ashley, Sean, Eric. Thank you for joining us. We'll see you next week. Happy Thanksgiving, everyone. Enjoy the holiday with family and friends. I'm thankful for both of you and for this podcast, and we're thankful for all of our listeners as well.
All right, and Eric, I saw the Blake Coram thing on the Detroit News. I saw a news clip of that, so that's give credit to them for that story. So happy Thanksgiving, everybody. Enjoy however it is your day.
Yeah, happy Thanksgiving, guys.
Come help the day.
You too.
Thank you.